Lionel Richie is a living legend, and I fully respect and applaud everything he's done for music and entertainment. However, even though he's no longer with us, you know who's also a legend? Michael Jackson. And I'll be damned if I sit back and let anybody push false narratives on my man. As a black, trying to say your brother was out here smelling like bounce that ass is a wild accusation, especially 16 years after his death. Again, as a black, it's them palm-colored people you gotta worry about when it comes to the use of soap and water. So in the last few weeks, Lionel's been on a little press tour since he just released his book titled Truly on September 30th, 2025. Truthfully, I wasn't aware of it. And for once, that's not shade, I just didn't know. That is, until a friend sent me an article from People.com titled, Lionel Richie says pal Michael Jackson was nicknamed Smelly for poor hygiene. He'd wear pants until they were unwearable. The article goes on to pull snippets straight from Lionel's book. Like, for instance, Richie shares that fellow music icon Quincy Jones used to tease Jackson with the nickname Smelly. Michael would laugh too, realizing that he was oblivious to the fact that he hadn't changed or washed his clothes for a couple of days or so, writes Richie. We all have our quirks. But let's actually read the full page from Lionel's book and get the proper context. Long story short, a core team rapidly assembled itself, Quincy to produce, with writing and singing from me and Michael. This had the feeling of being meant to be. A dozen years had passed since the Commodores had last opened for the J5, and as much as our lives and careers had changed, Michael and I remained close. Sometimes I played a big brother to him, or we switched roles and he became the wise counsel to me. What I had just come through with the Olympics, he had been going through since he was 9 years old. Michael was very close with his family, but once he went solo, making these monster albums, movies, and videos, he was in charge of his own ship. His day-to-day life was what you could call eccentric and extremely chaotic. Quincy used to tease him with the nickname Smelly. Michael would laugh too, realizing that he was oblivious to the fact that he hadn't changed or washed his clothes for a couple days. Or so. We all have our quirks. Michael didn't buy clothes like you or me. He couldn't just go to department stores or Beverly Hills boutiques. He was on tour performing in the elaborate costumes made for him by his stylists, or he was in his pajama bottoms and slippers in the studio, or he was in his going out attire, or he was at home in something loose and comfortable so he could practice his dance moves and play with his menagerie of pets. Some of his thrown together looks, white socks and black loafers, say, became global fashion statements. Those loafers were fantastic for moonwalking or going up on point. Whenever Michael came to visit me, he was wearing whatever, jeans and a t-shirt, and the jeans were either falling off of him or too short to even be jeans, or well, smelly. Where do you get those jeans, Michael? Lionel, I walked by a store in the valley. The owner came out and gave me a free pair. I'd suggest he go back and get a pair that fit. Let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with Lionel sharing a quirky anecdote about his friend. For the most part, he's always stood 10 toes down when it came to MJ. He's consistently respected, defended, and spoken proudly of him. I also have to acknowledge that some fans have taken the stance that both meanings of the word smelly can be true. The definition Quincy Jones gave, which we'll explore later, and also that maybe MJ could have been out here, you know, a little musty. In LaToya Jackson's 1991 book, LaToya Growing Up in the Jackson Family, she states that people did come to her and complain about Michael's stench. Fans know that Quincy nicknamed Michael Smelly, ostensibly because of my brother's talent for writing funky music. Man, that's smelly, he'd say after a hot take in the studio. To translate, that's a compliment. Anything's possible, but we at home thought smelly meant something else. Inexplicably, when he was 20, Michael decided deodorant was unhealthy and daily showering excessive. He wore the same jeans and socks for days, perplexing his brothers, who appealed to me. LaToya, you're closest to Mike, talk to him. What do you want me to do? He's not going to change. It's just his personality, maybe a stage he's going through. But LaToya, you're not in the studio with him, one of the guys said, wrinkling his nose. It's musky in there.
In 1985, you participated in We Are the World, which gathered together some of the top performers of our day, and LaToya Jackson. The thing everyone wants to know.
However, I think it's very important to mention that this book was released during the time LaToya was married to her abusive manager Jack Gordon, who at times allegedly used threats of harming her and her family if she did not comply with his commands. Apparently, in later years, she stated that he was inserting his own stories into her autobiography to embarrass her family and make her appear to be a drama queen. So take anything she says here with a grain of salt. Aside from the hearsay in LaToya's book, I've also seen discourse on Twitter, MJJ community, and Reddit from fans saying that Michael's mother mentioned in her book, My Family the Jacksons, that he went through a hippie phase and didn't wear deodorant at one point. I haven't been able to verify if that was actually said though, so don't come for me. But let's BFFI. Michael Jackson was not a perfect man. He was a performer, a creative force of nature, and when he got in that zone, he'd forget to eat, he wouldn't sleep. Would it be wild to say he might have forgotten to shower sometimes? Maybe. But honestly, I wouldn't find that particularly shocking. A lot of creatively driven people go into autopilot and stop attending to their basic needs when they're deep in work. Also, let's not forget, MJ was out here putting in work on stage. He was sweating to the point where he'd lose 3 to 4 pounds a night. Some of y'all faves don't even break a sweat on stage. But that's a different conversation. Either way, dirty or clean,
homeboy's gonna like edit.
Personally, I like to believe what's been said by multiple people like Michael Bearden, Kenny Ortega, Karen Faye, I get it, not the most reliable sources, and various fans that met MJ over the years.
Oh, he's beautiful. His hair is really soft and his skin's soft and he's strong. When he holds you, he's really strong and he smells beautiful. I've got him all over my shirt. He's so beautiful. He smells so nice.
Alexa, play That Should Be Me by Justin Bieber.
That he always smelled amazing, and that you could literally smell him before he even walked into a room. He's said to have smelled like Ballet Versailles or Tom Ford Black Orchid. And I know my man believed in a good shower and washing his hair thoroughly.
I'm a nice person. I just took a shower and I washed my hair thoroughly.
Let's be real. If Michael Jackson was out here smelling like depression and regret, I think more people would have said something by now. The media and MJ haters around the world would have jumped at the chance to tell us not to listen to words about the mouth of a man with an unwashed ass. The deeper problem here is the framing of this article. So people.com, prepare to catch this L. 2 random paragraphs from a 496-page book were snippeted and ran with. Why? Because when it comes to Michael Jackson, good news is far less profitable or favorable in a media landscape that thrives on plotting the destruction of a black legend. The article states, but Richie was the kind of friend to lend a helping hand. One time, when Jackson came over looking and smelling particularly unkempt, Richie writes that he gave the star a pair of jeans, clean underwear, and encouraged him to shower for the first time in days. Once again, let's actually read the full page from Lionel's book and get the proper context. Whenever Michael visited me, I usually went to pick him up. That was because he didn't want to drive her all the time, but if he drove himself, who knew how long it would take? First of all, he wouldn't drive on the freeway because everybody drove too fast and he'd get recognized and it would be a whole traffic situation. He only drove certain back streets you've never heard of. Think about it. Michael Jackson driving a car alone sounds like the setup to a great joke. Not gonna happen. One day, soon after I left the Commodores, he came over after, I picked him up, and when we walked in my house, I noticed the jeans were dingy. Man, where'd you get those jeans? You don't like them? They could use a washing. I took him upstairs to my dressing area and went and got him a pair of my Commodore jeans. We had once put out our own line that I probably had worn one time. They were a little large, but he could grow into them, and I gave him a brand new pair of underwear, still in the package. You heard that right. And I repeated to Michael, they are brand new, you just have to take them out of the package. After that, I pointed him to my bedroom where he could change and told him to meet me downstairs, where he soon joined me. So much better. Later, I drove him home on his back streets, and he was sweet and thankful. As soon as I got home, I went upstairs to get something from my bedroom, and as soon as I walked in, I noticed that there, on the carpet, was the pair of Michael Jackson's discarded underwear and his old ratty jeans, just lying there like roadkill. What do I do but laugh? MJ was here. In his daily comings and goings, that kid was winging it every minute. But creatively, musically, Michael had a feel for detail that was disarming. Nowhere does Lionel Richie mention encouraging Michael to shower. Nowhere does he say Michael smelled particularly unkempt. Unsurprisingly, people.com took what they wanted to take, scrambled it around a little bit, and turned it into this narrative of Michael Jackson walking around like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. Absolutely vile work. This was a man who won a Guinness World Record for the most charitable donations made by a pop star, someone who broke countless records, shattered color barriers, and used his talent to make uplifting music music about climate change, children of the world, and political issues. But all of that, all of those groundbreaking, world-changing contributions get diminished because everyone knows that calling MJ weird, unclean, or bizarre sells stories. The headline isn't Lionel Richie reflects on MJ's eccentricity. It's not Michael Jackson's iconic nickname had a funny origin. No, they went with Lionel Richie says pal Michael Jackson was nicknamed Smelly for poor hygiene. This has been the formula for decades. Like, aren't y'all tired? Because I sure am. This ongoing Michael Jackson smear campaign is so exhausting, so forced, and so painfully predictable. I'm tired of y'all messing with my man. Stop it!
Shit!
And Lionel, baby, these L's are on BOGO, so yours is free. I didn't forget about you. I don't know if the first week sales of your book were low or if you were just trying to get your name trending off the back of my good brother Michael, but either way, you a little wrong for this. Again, the problem isn't him sharing a personal anecdote about his friend. He's absolutely entitled to that. And as a Michael Jackson fan, I'm always excited to hear never before told stories about him, or even old ones with a new twist. But Lionel Richie, of all people, has to know that his words have power. And when it comes to Michael Jackson, his words have even more power. I don't think he anticipated the media taking his narrative and bending and twisting it, but that's exactly what they did, because Michael Jackson is one of the most exploited figures in entertainment history. And you can feel free to fight me on that, but you gon' lose. And to say this now, 16 years after his death, while there's an ongoing trial against some people who clearly refuse to hit up Indeed.com, while a biopic is in the works for release in 2026, allegedly at this point, and while others who were once so proudly to defend him during his lifetime again refused to hit up Indeed.com and are now suing his estate for money, yeah, I'm looking directly at you, Frank Cassio. Now, Lionel did try to do a bit of damage control on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which was uploaded on October 2nd, 2025. I'm almost positive Joe Rogan is going to come for my wig if I put the actual clip in here, so I will be directly quoting what Lionel said. There's a little rumor that's out right now. I want to clean that up right quick. They said in Lionel's book, Lionel called Michael smelly. He didn't like the way he smelled. I said, no, that's not what I meant, so let me clean this up. So, imagine sending your clothes out anywhere and you get half of your clothes back. The other half of your clothes are souvenirs. You following me? So what he would do is if he had a pair of jeans, right? He'd wear the jeans until they tried to run away from him. Or he'd walk in the house some days and I'm looking down at his feet and I go, Michael, your shoes are flopping on your feet. They're 2 sizes too large for you. I know, Lionel, the guy we were in someplace, he gave me a pair of shoes and I told him thank you very much. I said, but Michael, you could have gotten the shoes in the right size. I know, but I didn't want to embarrass him, so he's walking around 2 sizes too large. So he'll come by the house and, you know, we wore the same size, right? And by the time he became a teenager, so I said, go in the closet, get a pair of jeans. So literally he changed clothes, and by the way, he left the clothes on the floor in the room and walked away from them. In other words, he'd wear them until he got another pair, and so we'd call him, Quincy called him, Smelly. And so his nickname was Smelly for the insiders. His nickname was Smelly. So when I said it in the book, everybody goes, oh my God, Lionel called Michael Jackson Smelly. And I go, no, that's not it. That's his name. So Lionel frames it like this. Whenever MJ would send his clothes out to be cleaned, people would steal them because, oh my God, it's Michael Jackson's underwear. I know it's been like 7 years, but you can still delete this. So instead, he'd just wear his clothes until they were unwearable, buy new ones, and repeat the cycle. But still, the way Lionel tells it makes it sound like Michael was wearing the same outfit every single day without ever taking it off or washing it, which according to him, became the origin of Quincy and Lionel calling him Smelly. And as a black and a poor, me and a washing machine go together real bad. So yeah, I'll wear clothes until they're unwearable, but not in the way it's framed here. Before I get into the real reason Quincy called MJ Smelly, I'd like to bring up that one thing about Michael Jackson. He was a big jokester, and he loved to keep people guessing. According to his longtime personal costume designer of over 25 years, Michael Bush, MJ did like to have sort of a uniform he'd wear when he wasn't performing. He loved the idea of people wondering, is that dirty or clean? When in reality, he had like 50 pairs of the exact same shirt and pants. pants. To quote the king of style, Dressing Michael Jackson by Michael Bush, the Michael uniform was all he wore when he wasn't performing. Corduroy shirt, usually red, black cotton pants with box pleats, sometimes with a cuff, and his loafers. Ask him why, and he'd say, Bush, if I have 50 red corduroy shirts in my closet, I don't have to think about what I'm going to wear. What a waste of time and energy. Practicality aside, Michael's love of play was ubiquitous. If I only have one choice in my closet, he told me, then you won't know if I have had this on for the last 3 days. Is it clean? Is it dirty? You don't know. He loved to keep people guessing because it meant they were paying attention. Rob Dissner, who was a studio runner for MJ during the Dangerous era, also mentions the plethora of red shirts MJ had too.
Michael's wardrobe looks very familiar to me because basically this was his uniform during the recording of Dangerous. He'd wear a red button-down shirt, black pants, and penny loafers, and a hat. And he had a service that would bring racks of these red shirts and black pants into the studio every week. He would just toss them in a bag. They'd take them out, and, they would return with, freshly laundered and pressed shirts for him and pants.
So, personally, I think it's way more plausible that MJ had multiple versions of the same shirts or pants and owned a washing machine. It's not that he was wearing clothes until they were unwearable without ever washing them. I just think that when it came to Michael's offstage looks, he genuinely didn't care about being flashy or flaunty. He liked what he liked, and if it worked, he'd stick with it. And that's on personal branding. Now, let's get into the true origin of the nickname Smelly. Despite what the media wants you to believe, the nickname Smelly does not stem from Michael Jackson's alleged poor hygiene or tattered clothing. In April of 1984, Quincy did an interview with Rolling Stone where he said, "We call Michael Jackson Smelly because he's so polite and proper we can't even get him to say the word funky. Honest to God, I love Smelly. He's the purest product in America today. He was up at the house the other day with my old pal Marlon Brando. Brando was talking trash, telling raunchy street stories while Smelly was covering his ears. So Smelly was never about odor. It was about funk. Musical funk, creative funk, the good kind. Smelly actually comes from the term smelly jelly.
You're just in time too, Smelly.
In 2001, during a Quincy Jones interview on the Oprah Winfrey Show for his upcoming autobiography, Michael Jackson was phoned in as Quincy explained why he called him Smelly.
Michael?
Yeah?
This is Quincy. Can I call you by the name we usually talk to each other by?
Yes, you want.
Huh? Okay.
I'm scared.
Smelly. What you say?
He said, I'm scared.
Smelly. Okay.
Now, what
That's very affectionate because Michael does not use any profanity. Ever. Right? Right, Smelly?
No,
And so when it got good, we said, that's funky. He said, don't say that. It's smelly jelly. It's smelly jelly.
You don't even use funky?
Michael doesn't say that word.
No. No, doesn't say any kind of bad words at all.
I've heard a couple, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But no,
from
that's
who?
you.
So that's why you
Just
started.
smelly jelly.
That's why you started calling him Smelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
In his 2001 autobiography, Q, the autobiography of Quincy Jones, he explains further why he called MJ Smelly, stating, "I called Michael Smelly because when he liked a piece of music or a certain beat, instead of calling it funky, he'd call it smelly jelly. When it was really good, he'd say, that's some smelly jelly." Even in 2007, Michael Jackson discussed the nickname during his interview for Ebony magazine, stating,
Quincy calls me a nickname. Smelly came from Spielberg calls me that because, especially then, I say some swear words now. Especially then, you couldn't get me to swear. So I said, that's a smelly song. I mean, that's so great. You're engrossed in it. And so he would call me Smelly.
And as recent as October 2015, in an article from Billboard.com, Quincy is quoted saying, "I used to call Michael Smelly because he wouldn't say funky. He'd say smelly jelly. They'd say who's in the studio. I'd say smelly worms and mouse." In conclusion, I don't believe Michael Jackson was out here smelling like Ben Sturkey from That's So Raven. The true meaning of the word smelly comes from smelly jelly, meaning it's funky, it's soulful, it's something that just grabs you. Have any of y'all ever been listening to a song that just makes you scrunch up your face? That's how you know it's that good, as the kids say. So Lionel, I need you to keep my man's name out your mouth unless it's followed by the words record-breaking or iconic. And to every media outlet that took 2 tiny tidbits from an almost 500-page book, a book that inherently has nothing to do with Michael Jackson since it's Lionel Richie's autobiography, and ran to drag a man who's been gone for 16 years through the mud, if anything is smelly here, it's the journalism. I just want to say thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like and validate a sister in the comments. Savages need love too, darling. Let me know how you feel about the true origin of Smelly. Was Lionel Richie wrong for how he framed certain pieces of his book, or is the media to blame? All source material is in the video's description to keep up with updates when videos come out, or to keep up with updates on yours truly, darling. Follow me on my socials, Elon's app, aka the artist previously known as Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at _Hannah Savage. You can also check the community tab on my channel for updates as well. I'm working on doing my yearly Q&A to wrap up the year before I put myself back into the This Is It trenches. So if you have any burning questions you'd like to ask me, feel free, darling. It's been so great getting to connect with all of you, and I'm truly so grateful to have all of you here. You know, we still on the road to 10K, baby. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.